You may be seated. I want to begin this morning with a moment of personal privilege. I want to thank you, Mr. Dean, for the opportunity to come here this morning. You know, it's a great matter of trust for the pastor of a congregation to invite a visitor to preach from his pulpit.
They're just bored with me, Peter, I tell you. They're bored with me.
I will try to be true to his trust. Thank you, sir. When I retired from my position as canon to the ordinary of Indianapolis, I was looking for something worthwhile to occupy my time. Among many things, I was encouraged to become a docent at the Indianapolis Museum of Art. I had always had an interest in art, but I knew very little about it, and so I volunteered to be a docent, thinking that I might learn something. And I was right. I applied, I was accepted, and I completed the required 18 months of classes, field studies, and study assignments, and I became accredited as a docent. I led groups through the museum's special exhibitions and also gave general tours of the works of art displayed in the museum itself. Now, I tell you this because, among other things, I came to believe that art can tell a story. Now, with that in mind, I present to you my text for this morning. Now, I'm probably stretching the meaning of the term text to its breaking point, because my text is what you have before you on the front page of your bulletin this morning. This one particular section of Michelangelo's magnificent ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Now, as you can see, it is called The Creation of Adam. Now, I would like to spend a few moments to consider a few places in this work. First, I call your attention to that old man on the right. He's leaning out of what seems to be something like a shell. I'll let you determine what you think it is. Now, given that this is called by some the creation of Adam, I think we are safe to assume that the figure of the old man is Michelangelo's concept of God, and that this is his concept of heaven, God's realm. The old man, you see, is leaning precariously out of his heaven. His hair and beard are swept back as if he's facing a strong wind. His eyes betray an intensity, a determination to reach out to the creature below. He's reaching out as hard as he can across this great chasm. Now, notice that he's in the company of what I suggest are Michelangelo's concept of angels. Although they don't look like the popular notion of angels we sometimes see today. I don't see wings, harps, halos, or the other accoutrements that the later depictions of angels give us. These angels are looking out of heaven, following God's eyes across that chasm toward the creature below. They don't seem to be concerned that God might fall out of heaven. Now let's look at the object of God's perilous daring. There lies Adam. He is lolling listlessly on a hillside in what we might describe as a 16th century version of being laid back. Adam doesn't seem to be overly enthused about this heavenly being trying to reach out from heaven to try to touch him. Dare I suggest that were we to try to put a 21st century caption to this guy, we might write, "Hey, what's up, dude?" Apparently, there's more to God's intent than just creating Adam, because Adam's already there. All right, we've looked at some pieces here. I'd like to tell you now why I selected this piece for a text this morning. I suggest that this one artistic work that lies within that vast expanse of the biblical story told in the frescoes of the Sistine Chapel ceiling is apropos to Advent. Now, I don't wish for you to accept on face value my analysis of this great work. However, I do wish to tell you what I think of it. And then you can make your own interpretation of it as you study it. Advent is that period in the church year when we await the coming of someone we believe was promised by the prophets. Now, the centuries of Christian tradition have told us who this someone is. But in Advent, we are to pretend that we aren't sure what this is. We don't know for sure. Remember that song from the West Side Story? Could it be? Yes, it could. Something's coming, something good if I can wait. Something's coming, I don't know what it is, but it's gonna be great. The stories we hear in Advent give us hints of what is coming. And we now know today, all these centuries later, what that something is, and that something did come. But only as that story progresses through Christmas, Epiphany, and Lent up to Easter are we really able to come to grips with what has really happened. What this invasion of God means not only for us, but also for the whole world. God reached out into the world, into humanity, in a way that was perilous, but was the only way possible. We will soon learn that God needed not just to touch Adam, but to become an Adam. And this work that we hold a piece of in front of us I suggest is an icon of God's need to reach out and to touch Adam, you, and me. Now, I realize that I'm using human terms for something that defies our attempt to use human terms for it. We say incarnation, we talk Emmanuel, say God with us. These are all inadequate attempts to understand this greatest of mysteries that we're going to celebrate in just a few weeks. As I was studying this past week, I came across a line in Psalm 144 of the Jewish Bible that I happened to be reading at the time. The psalmist is calling out to God, "Reach your hand down from on high." Now, our English Bible translates this a bit differently, but it occurred to me that this is exactly what Michelangelo is predicting here. He is depicting God reaching down from on high to touch you and me. I submit that God has reached down, and God has touched up. He gave us a great gift in that touching, and that greatest gift we are going to be celebrating in just a few weeks. God gave us the greatest gift of all his own being in the life of Jesus Christ. And I suggest that in this work, in which we are given an image of God reaching across that great chasm between heaven and earth, Michelangelo got it right. But I suggest further that to celebrate how God reaches out to us is admirable, noble, it's praiseworthy. But you and I might also consider making an audacious attempt to reach out across our own chasms, whatever they might be, to reach out to touch another in a way that gives life as God reached out across the great chasm separating heaven and our world to give life to Adam. God reaches out to us all the time. We can be laid back like Adam, or we can be watchful like the hymn calls us to be. But whatever it is, I suggest again that Michelangelo got this right.